On October 15th, 2025, a quiet town in southern France became the stage for an event that shattered the known laws of medicine and physics. It was a day that tested the fragile boundary between human hatred and something divine. It began with Amina Khalil, 32, and an act of such visceral violence that it fractured her community. Yet the true horror lay not in the act itself, but in what followed. In its immediate aftermath, her right hand began to burn. Not from any external flame or chemical, but from within. A consuming fire with no medical explanation and no natural cause. It was unstoppable. This is more than a tale of division. It is a terrifying witness to what occurs when the wall between our world and another wears perilously thin. What follows will challenge everything you believe about the nature of reality. For 28 straight days, my hand was on fire. I'm not speaking metaphorically. It was a searing, physical burn. Doctors had zero explanation, and the pain was just unbearable. I knew what I had done, and I knew the only way to make it stop was to confess my hatred to my entire town. This wasn't just admitting to a crime. It was a public airing of a darkness I had been nursing for over a decade. And it was, without a doubt, the most terrifying thing I have ever had to do. My story doesn't really start with the fire. It starts with the bitterness that fueled it. I grew up in a town called Havenwood, a place that was almost sickeningly proud of its own perfection. We're talking cobblestone streets, a storybook town square, and a community so tight-knit, it felt more like one giant, nosy family. And right in the center of that square, the very heart of our town's identity, was a statue. It was a bronze figure of our founder, Alistair Finch, with his hand stretched out in a pose that was supposed to be a sign of eternal welcome. Everyone loved that statue. It was a symbol of our prosperity, our history, our so-called goodness. Everyone but me. For me, that statue was a monument to a lie. Every time I looked at it, I felt this acidic rage bubble up from the pit of my stomach. You see, my family's history with Alistair Finch wasn't exactly one of prosperity. My great-grandfather was his business partner. They built Havenwood together, brick by brick. But when it was time to share the profits, Finch betrayed him. With a few crooked legal tricks, he shoved my great-grandfather out of the picture, taking everything and leaving him with nothing but debt and shame. My family never recovered from it. That story was passed down through generations, a poisoned inheritance of resentment. So while the rest of Havenwood was celebrating their noble founder, my family remembered him as a thief who built his legacy on the ashes of my great-grandfather's life. This bitterness became my shadow. It followed me everywhere in that town. I couldn't walk through the square without feeling the cold stare of that bronze man. During the annual Founders' Day festival, I'd lock myself inside because the sounds of celebration felt like a personal slap in the face. My friends, who had no idea about my family's secret, just thought I was moody and distant. How could I even begin to explain that the very ground they celebrated was, in my eyes, stolen? That anger just festered inside me, turning my heart into a cold, hard stone. They were celebrating the man who ruined my family, and his fake, outstretched blessing seemed to mock me every single day. The hate was like a living thing inside me, and it was starving for a way out. I started having fantasies about wiping the smug look off that bronze face, of shattering the happy little illusion everyone in Havenwood clung to. I didn't just dislike the statue, I hated it with a passion that burned away every other feeling. It had to come down, or at the very least, it had to be scarred. It needed to show the ugliness it really stood for, the ugliness I carried inside me every day. As the annual Founders' Day festival got closer, something inside me finally snapped. This year I decided the founder would have a reason to be mourned, not celebrated. The night I decided to do it was 2 days before the festival. A storm was rolling in, and the rain was coming down in thick, heavy sheets, sending everyone running for cover. The sky was just this churning darkness, a perfect mirror for the storm inside my own soul. I pulled my hood down low, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and an absolutely exhilarating rage. In my hand, I gripped a heavy, sharpened chisel from my grandfather's old toolbox. It felt cold, heavy, and full of purpose. The town square was completely empty. The only sound was the rain drumming on the cobblestones. And there he was, Alistair Finch, gleaming under the streetlights, his hand outstretched. That hand, the one that signed the papers that destroyed my family. I climbed onto the pedestal, clumsy with adrenaline, and didn't hesitate. I lifted the chisel and brought it down with all the force of a decade's worth of inherited pain, right onto the back of that bronze hand. The sound was a sickening, metallic crunch that got swallowed by the storm. A deep gash appeared, a wound. I felt this incredible surge of triumph. I'd done it. I'd marked him. I turned and ran, dropping the chisel as I disappeared into the rainy darkness. The next morning, I woke up with a weird warmth in my right hand, the same one I'd used to hold the chisel. I figured I'd just strained it. But as the day wore on, the warmth got hotter. It became a constant, prickling tingle, like 1,000 tiny needles dancing under my skin. By that evening, it was a full-blown, throbbing burn. A day later, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The pain was searing, constant, like my hand was being held over a lit stove. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even hold a fork. I'd plunge it into ice water, and the relief would last for maybe a few seconds before the fire came roaring back, even hotter than before. Panic started to set in. I went to the town doctor, who was completely baffled. He saw that it was red and a little swollen, but he couldn't find a cause. He sent me to specialists in the city, and that's when the real medical mystery tour began. They ran every test imaginable: nerve studies, blood work, MRIs. They threw around terrifying names for it, like complex regional pain syndrome or a rare condition called erythromelalgia. But they all admitted they'd never seen a case like mine, one that appeared overnight with no injury. They were just guessing, putting fancy labels on a mystery they couldn't solve. Nothing they prescribed even touched the deep, agonizing fire. For 28 days, I lived in my own private hell. The pain was relentless. I had to quit my job as a librarian because touching paper felt like sandpaper on my raw skin. I hid in my house, wrapping my hand in bandages, mostly just to hide it. It felt like a brand of shame. Meanwhile, the town was in an uproar over the vandalized statue. Who could do such a thing, people would ask in the grocery store, their voices full of anger. I would just shrink, pulling my hood lower, feeling the fire in my hand burn hotter with every word. The guilt and the pain were feeding each other. In the long, sleepless nights, I'd replay the moment I struck the statue over and over. The crunch of the metal, the flash of satisfaction, And then, that image would merge with my own red swollen hand. It was on the 28th night, when I was at my absolute lowest, that it hit me. It wasn't a dream or a vision. It was just a moment of awful, quiet clarity. I was sitting in my dark living room, staring at this hand I didn't even recognize anymore, and I thought of the statue's hand, wounded and scarred by my hatred. A hand for a hand. The thought was so simple, so biblical, it sent a chill down my spine that fought and lost against the fire in my flesh. This wasn't a syndrome. This wasn't a medical anomaly. This was a consequence. This was judgment. I knew in my heart, with a certainty that defied all science, that my problem wasn't a damaged nerve. It was a damaged soul. Realizing my suffering was spiritual didn't bring me any peace. It brought a whole new kind of terror. If doctors couldn't fix me, what could? The answer that came to me was as unbearable as the pain itself. The wound on the statue was public. My sin was a secret. To heal, the two had to match. My confession had to be just as public as the scar on that bronze hand. I had to stand in front of everyone in Havenwood and tell them what I did. The thought of it made me physically sick. These were people I'd known my entire life. To stand before them and admit to such a hateful act felt like dying. They would see me for what I'd become, a bitter, destructive person who had desecrated the town's most beloved symbol. They would hate me. But what was the alternative? Live with this fire for the rest of my life? The pain was a constant, throbbing reminder of the choice I had to make. It was a choice between the fire of my affliction and the fire of public humiliation. I chose the Sunday service. It felt right, a place of judgment, but maybe, just maybe, a place of grace. That morning, I didn't wrap my hand. I let it be seen, red, puffy, and radiating a heat I was sure everyone could feel. I walked into the church, and every eye seemed to fall on me. I sat in the back, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I don't remember the sermon at all. When the last hymn ended, I stood up and walked to the front. A hush fell over the room. My voice was just a trembling whisper when I started. I have something to confess. And then the whole story came tumbling out. I told them about my great-grandfather, the inherited bitterness, the years of silent rage. Then, my voice cracking, I told them about that rainy night, the chisel and the gash I'd carved into the founder's hand. You could hear a collective gasp from the pews. I didn't stop. I raised my own hand. This, I said, my voice gaining a desperate strength, is what happened next. I told them about the 28 days of fire, the confused doctors, and the unbearable pain. I told them I knew it was a consequence of my own hatred. I looked out at their faces. I saw shock. I saw anger. But I saw something else too. Pity. Maybe even understanding. And as I stood there, totally exposed, confessing the ugliest part of myself, a strange thing started to happen. The searing fire in my it began to cool. It wasn't sudden. It was a slow, creeping relief, like sinking into cool water on a scorching day. I'm not asking for your forgiveness because I don't deserve it, I said, tears streaming down my face. I just needed to renounce the hatred that has been poisoning me and this town. I am so sorry. As those words left my mouth, the burning just stopped. Gone. The fire that had been my constant companion for 28 days was just out. My hand was still tender, but the inferno inside was gone. A deep, overwhelming peace washed over me, so powerful it made my knees weak. I had faced the fire of humiliation, and in doing so, had quenched the fire of judgment. The statue was eventually repaired, the scar polished away, but the scar on my heart was healing too. Forgiveness from the town came in small gestures, a quiet nod, a shared coffee, an invitation to a picnic. I started tending to the flowers at the base of the statue, the same hand that once burned, now able to nurture life. The bitterness that defined me was replaced by gratitude. The statue of Alistair Finch no longer looks like a monument to a lie. For me, it's a reminder of the destructive power of hate and the even greater, miraculous power of forgiveness. The heaviest burdens we carry are the ones in our own hearts. True freedom isn't found in revenge, but in letting go and forgiving. My story isn't just about a moment of vandalism. It's proof that the hate we hold on to only ends up burning us. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your own experiences with forgiveness in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about profound transformation.
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.